Hi everyone, welcome to the end of week 6. We're going to be talking about the paper one last time, and I just wanted to kind of remind you of a couple things as you're finishing up. Alright, so let's look at the prompt for this paper because I think that will be very useful in helping you craft your thesis statement. Alright, so one of the things you should note here is that the prompt is a question. That is great for you, I believe, because what that will allow you to do is answer that question, and by answering that question, you will have the beginning of a thesis. So let's look at that question. That question is, which conflict does Wilson use most to drive all the other elements of the story? So let's break this question down because really it's setting us up for two parts. So the first part we need to answer is, which conflict does Wilson use most? And obviously there's the list down below. So first things first, you need to pick one of those conflicts. That's going to be really important for the second part. So once you picked one of those conflicts, then we need to talk about in our thesis how that conflict drives, brings force, moves forward all the other elements of the story. Now you might be asking yourself, what does elements of the story mean? That's vague. Well, yes, and purposely so. So when we're thinking about the elements of the story, this is where those terms from all the previous units can come into play. So for example, you can talk about how this conflict perhaps brings out or moves forward the theme of the play. And so what I would do is, in your thesis, talk about how the conflict you're picking, for instance, maybe Troy versus Society, since it's the first one there, that brings out or moves forward the theme of the play. And so what you can maybe do is think back to all those terms that we've gone over, those elements of the story that we've gone over throughout weeks 1 through 6, and think about how those elements of the story are connected to the conflict. How does that conflict maybe help us understand the theme, or how does it the conflict connect to the setting, going way back? And so what you should do is think about all the other elements that we've gone over and use those to kind of help connect to the conflict. So in a lot of ways, what we're really doing here is looking at this particular conflict, saying it's the most used, and focusing on how it connects to and brings out, moves forward, whatever element you're picking. And again, the elements are really the terms that we've been going over throughout the class, in my opinion. Alright, so last but not least, there is a sample thesis, and basically if you look at the sample thesis, it says, in the play Fences, August Wilson used the conflict of blank, obviously you would fill in the blank, to drive the other conflicts and elements of the story as evidenced by. And so as evidenced by, that's where you'd be putting your support or examples of perhaps like the various elements, like theme, setting, that sort of thing. Alright, now just a couple other things to kind of mention here. Be sure to use things you've learned about Wilson's life and his writings. This could help you, if you're talking about something like setting, and talking about how that connects to the conflict in the actual play. Another thing it says to remember, you have to use at least 3 outside sources, but 2 of them can be from the previous research essay. One of the things I don't mind you also doing is, if you need to use parts of that essay for whatever reason, just let me know ahead of time so that there's no plagiarism issues. But I would be careful that you need to adapt it, and so it's probably going to look a lot different from what it was in Unit 4. That paper, as you know, was not an argumentative paper. It was more of just here's a biography basically of this person, and a summary of some of their work and some history and context on the setting it wasn't making an argument. This is making an argument, so they're going to look a lot different. So if you just copy and paste it, it's not going to work. So you're going to have to adapt it. Okay. And last thing I just want to mention, and this is also in the requirements. I've seen a lot of first and second person in the writing, and I normally always will mark it and be like, hey, just making sure that this is too informal for this particular type of writing. So just make sure that you're aware of that. First person is very easy actually to get rid of. So for example, if you say, I think that Wilson is blank, just say Wilson is blank, right? The whole I think is kind of unnecessary in a way because it's not only implied, but you could remove it and the sentence doesn't really change at all. All right, well, that's about it. If there's any other questions that can come up over this next couple of days, just let me know. If you want me to talk about your essay with you, I need those in by Friday so that I can get them back to you by Saturday, Sunday morning at the latest. Okay? All right. I will talk to you on the discussion board or via email or phone, perhaps. All right. Bye.